Hello and welcome to WrestleLine, and this is the Conor McGregor Floyd-Mayweather preview for this Saturday's fight. Joining me as always, my co-host Matt Essex, and speaking to you now is your host John Scott. And Matt, we haven't been on for a long time with a sort of more regular current theme to our podcast in a little while, but just for all the listeners, because I know that we still get so many emails weekly, actually, from a few of our more popular supporters of the show. They're always emailing in asking how we are. I do often try to, as much as I can, reply back to you guys, but Matt, just let all the listeners know you're okay, you're there still, and of course we're still knocking out the wrestle lines, and we're still doing our timeline wrestling themes. But how you doing, Matt? Just for everybody to hear up.
Yeah, I'm all good, and we're keeping ourselves busy at least. There's still content coming out. It's just not as regular as before, but it's the quality that matters.
It is the quality. I want to say a big thank you to the listeners that have been listening to the timelines, the Ken Shamrock, the 3 parts we've done, the Lex Luger especially. Hit some really big highs on that one. I've got to say, I was really surprised in a good way. Just the mass response we got on that, it was incredible. I knew that the retrospective stuff was popular, but I didn't know it was that popular. So I'm glad that's going well, and I want to give you guys a little bit of an update about where the podcast is going to go in the future as well, after having a little discussion with my co-host. So I've got a little bit of an announcement coming on that later in the show. But Matt, let's get down to business, because we are a wrestling podcast, but of course something that's been going on, something that's been picking up a lot of traction, and it really doesn't need any more hype than what it's got, I'll tell you that much. Because this has just been, literally like a rolling stone that has just picked up. This is like a planet-sized stone right now where we're at after everything that's gone on. Conor McGregor, Matt, stepping into the boxing world to take on arguably the greatest fighter of the last 20 years in Floyd Mayweather, 49-0. Matt, what is this fight? What does this say to you as a wrestling fan, as a fan of what we see on the wrestling side? What do you take from what we've seen, and when you heard this fight was actually going to be a reality? Because for a long time, and we know as wrestling fans, Matt, we get a lot of fantasy matches. Some happen, a lot don't. And in this case, I've got to say, I for one was very shocked when I heard it had become official. Matt, what was your initial reaction to the news when we actually first heard this fight was going to be legit?
Yeah, I've got to say, I was completely shocked as well. I mean, it's something almost unfathomable, isn't it, that you would actually have 2 huge superstars at this kind of point in time in their careers. And even when people thought that Mayweather's career was over, thought that he could just retire whenever he wants or just stay retired. But the thing is that they're both willing to do this. I mean, of course, there is a lot of money as an incentive to this, but of course, they're 2 huge egos as well. Just neither one will accept a loss, and they both just want to prove that they are the pinnacle of what it is to be an athlete in their respective sports. And kudos to Conor McGregor to actually change into the boxing lane just to go out there and prove something a little bit extra as well. I mean, I can't remember the last time there was a fight that was this hyped up and this anticipated. This could possibly be the biggest fight of my lifetime, that I will actually be there to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know we're ever going to get something like this for a long time, because it's not just the idea of an MMA fighter going into boxing. You've also got 2 incredibly charismatic guys at the same time. I mean, that just doesn't come around often. And the fact that this is going to now happen is just... I mean, obviously, Matt, you're right. I mean, this is, no pun intended for Floyd Money Mayweather, but this is going to make a hell of a lot of money. I mean, incredible sums of money, for sure. No doubt about it. The payday is there. business-wise, this is going to do well. There's no doubt about that. But what's interesting about this, Matt, I mean, from a wrestling perspective, is the fact that, the world tour that they did, where they went from, in 4 cities, and, they promoted this at a time where I believe, even without the promotion, this would have still sold itself. There's no doubt about it. You don't have to have anything, in fact. You just have these two guys turn up. But the fact that they did this just made it that much more bigger. And it was fascinating, Matt, from a wrestling standpoint, the fact that these guys, when they were up there with the microphones, I couldn't help but think this is them doing pro wrestling better than pro wrestling's doing pro wrestling currently at the moment. This is the way things used to be promoted. This is like the old Memphis way. This is like some of the territory stuff, like where you don't touch, but there's so much commotion. You got 2 huge egos and characters. What did you make of all that, Matt? And how much of that do you take as a bit of entertainment value to actually legitimately, being off the cuff to one another? Like, do you think it's all about making as much hype as possible and noise as possible in when you watch that world tour?
Well, I think it is just them two guys being who they really are. I mean, but that's how they got to where they are in the sports anyway, because they know how to promote themselves, they know how to sell a fight. That's how they generate this sort of charisma around themselves and get people interested and wanting to see them in the first place. So I don't think there was too much coordinating there about how to make this scheme bigger. It's just the fact that, these two personalities were always going to collide, and it was always going to be huge and massive. So I just think, that's part of the thing that's so special about it, that we won't see two people who are just this arrogant in many ways, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, what was interesting as well, Matt, and I'm sure you might have, I think I sent you the reference, is that Conor McGregor, he mentioned in the first press conference in LA in the World Tour about, he went back to the 1976 fight between Muhammad Ali and Antonio Inoki, that of course come from Tokyo, Japan, and that was built as a boxer versus a wrestler. It was like, again, it was a half shoot kind of fight. I don't know if you've ever seen that fight, Matt. I don't know if you've ever looked at that anywhere on YouTube. I don't know if it's even available on YouTube, but have you ever seen that fight, Matt, when that took place?
No, I haven't seen that one, but what I have seen is I've seen Rocky Balboa versus Hulk Hogan. Is that similar?
Yeah, we should get Hogan involved in this, I think. He's not busy at the moment. I think there's definitely... he's available, I'm sure of that. But yeah, I mean, Inoki, basically this is how the fight went, and it got very mixed reviews because it got a really bad reception at the time. But this was built as a huge, big fight. You got Muhammad Ali that was incredibly famous at the time, and Antonio Inoki was like the biggest sports person in Japan for that time, no doubt about it. I mean, everybody has heard of Antonio Inoki in pro wrestling, and certainly his name, travels very wide. And you got Muhammad Ali, and who, was fantastic on the stick. I mean, he was definitely a pro wrestling mic guy, that's for sure. And of course, Ali himself admitted that he, followed a lot of Gorgeous George and stole a lot of his lines towards the end. So where he said he picked up all the stuff he was saying. But what's interesting about that fight, Matt, is the fact that Inoki had to stay on his back the entire time, and I think Ali only ever, throughout it went the whole 15 rounds. But you know how many punches Ali got on Inoki from that position, Matt, being the wrestler? No. All of 3.
Wow.
Yeah, so Inoki, I mean, it went to like a points kind of thing, and it was it was very difficult to work out. Was it a shoot? Was it kind of a half shoot? Was it legit? But I think in areas you can tell that they are kind of going for it. Now, whether they're holding off a little bit to make it a little bit more entertaining, probably. But there's definitely some stuff in there. But it was interesting, I thought, that Conor McGregor brought that up, and it was a nice little nod of the hat to those two guys, those incredible legends. But Matt, just to talk about the whole verbal conflict between these two guys, because they're definitely not short of a few words, are they? out of the world tour, Matt, when you watched all 4 kind of press conferences that we got from, LA to Canada to New York to London, who do you think, after all that, Matt, came out, who won that battle, if you will, of the verbal? I mean, can you pick a winner? I mean, is there, who in your mind did you think won that battle, that psychological battle there, if there was one, to be made?
Well, it is tough, isn't it? I mean, everybody's seen what Mayweather can do in that ring. They know, what his record is. It's astounding to see that. But there's the great unknown with Conor, isn't there? I mean, we see what he does in the octagon, but it's very different when you have a different set of rules and stuff. So there's just the confidence that Conor has coming into this, and the fact that he would switch into a different discipline, just one discipline. You get many with mixed martial arts, but just sticking to the one, and then still saying, I'm going to come out there and I'm going to knock you out in the first few rounds and whatever. And I've got to believe him, because he's come out and I'm not going to say he's going to do that, but I've got to believe that he believes in himself that much. Because, he's come out there many times and said he's going to do this and that, and that he's going to win these matches, and he just does it, and it's almost to the point where you can only explain it as being one of the best in the world, at what you do. So just the fact that he is, and I know Mayweather is interesting, and sometimes his matches can be great, but, he does spend a lot of time, avoiding getting hit. That's kind of the point, but it doesn't really make for an interesting kind of fight. So I'm thinking the fact that Conor's just so aggressive, I've got to go with Conor.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the only thing I've heard that a few guys say this on other podcasts. But it makes perfect sense. Is the only thing McGregor has over all of Floyd's other opponents is that when McGregor is saying to him in a real fight, "I win. I kick your ass. There's no doubt about it. I will win." If we were having a fight, he would kick his ass. There's no doubt about it. And I don't know that there's any other opponent that Floyd's ever stood toe-to-toe with that could actually make that claim and sort of back it up. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't, I wonder, Matt, if that has a psychological impact there on a guy like Floyd Mayweather, that for the first time, okay, if we were not wearing boxing gloves and we were just outside, I know I'm going to get my arse handed to me here, because this guy's trained in all other stuff here. So do you think that plays into anything, Matt, at all? That the fact that he knows this guy. I know this is a boxing fight, but just the fact that he knows that Conor's no joke when it comes to knowing all the other holds, the kicks and all the rest of it. And I'm going to make this claim right here, right now, is the fact that if this was in the octagon, I think, although we say McGregor's got a lot of people are saying he's got more than a puncher's chance or a puncher's chance. I say if the roles were reversed, I say Floyd would be incredibly huge underdog in that, like amazing, more than what McGregor is here in a boxing ring. What do you say to that match? Is that something you agree with, and the whole thing about just that knowing that Conor is trained in all these other kind of martial arts?
Yeah, I've got to totally agree with that. That if Floyd was stepping into the octagon, I've got to say he should be scared if he did that, because it's a completely different world, and there are rules, but they're not going to protect you too much. If you get taken to the floor, you could end up easily with a broken arm, broken leg. Anything you step in there with McGregor, he'd exploit any weakness. It's just, that's why I say it's so interesting that McGregor will stick to this one discipline, even though it's a huge disadvantage for him. But his striking game is great, Yeah. And I think it was very strategic, the way that they released the video of him sparring and showing just what he can do, but they're saying they haven't shown us everything. So, I'm going to believe that. I mean, you don't want to give away all of your game plan to your opponent. Sure. So, I've definitely got to agree with you there. I mean, if it was a straight out fight, Conor wins, hands down. The most interesting thing is, though, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe neither of these guys have really, in their professional careers, ever been knocked out. So, the fact you're stepping into a boxing ring where that is the entire point, it's going to be very interesting. Yeah,
I mean, listen, very few guys have ever got close to getting to Floyd Mayweather in general, over the entire span of 49 fights. And, when he got to that big super fight with Manny Pacquiao, and, that fight was kind of a bit of a letdown. towards the end, I guess, because people